Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Jay Bassell, and you are going to have you should be in store for a treat today. And the reason why is we are talking about all things sublimation. And I'm excited because my special guest today is Amy Krulowitz, and Amy is in business development and sales at Equipment Zone, and she is what I would consider a subject matter expert. And what that means to me is she knows a lot more about it than I do. So Amy, I'm excited that you've been able to help by putting this content together and joining me on this webinar.
Thanks, Jay.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is make sure that you take over. You've got the mic and you're ready to rock and roll. And if there's any other questions that come up on the chat, I'll be sure to stop and pause. But this is your show, so take it away.
Super. Thank you, Jay. So first, I want to thank everyone for attending this morning. And I want to assure you that Equipment Zone is here to guide you through this really crazy time. I happen to be conducting this webinar from my home office, but it's from sunny New Jersey, and it's a beautiful day here in the neighborhood. For those of you who are new to Equipment Zone, I'd like to give you a little background. Equipment Zone is the home of the East Coast Epson Certified Solution Center. I know that's a mouthful. What does that mean? Well, what that means is that what we do here is we show and highlight and showcase all of Epson's professional technology. We have the technical series printers here for architects and engineers. We have the photo series printers for photographers and graphic artists. The solvent line is for outdoor signage and fine art, car wraps and stickers. We, of course, have the direct-to-garment and dye sublimation printers. We also have a whole line of heat presses. We have cutters and we have laminators. So we have an entire shop here. And no, we don't do work here to sell out. Everything we have in our Certified Solution Center is designed for you, the customer, for you to come, for you to take a look, test some files. We can make samples for you. So this is your playground.
I was just going to ask you that, Amy. Can people bring files to actually come and print with you?
Yes, we welcome that. We've had some wonderful experiences with customers who would come in with their file and they're interested in a particular technology, but not quite sure if it's going to be right for them in their world. So they come in and they can spend an hour, 2 hours, sometimes even longer. Not only that, but once a month we hold something we call Lunch and Learn. Now, Lunch and Learn, we try to adhere to the first Wednesday of every month. But obviously, in today's world, we're going to have to put that on hold.
Yeah.
But when we do have our Lunch and Learns, it's a wonderful experience because customers come in and two things happen. They learn about the equipment we have here and they learn about us and we get to know one another, but they also share with other customers.
Perfect.
And that is a great way for people to share experiences and knowledge and skill sets. It's really a terrific day. So I urge anyone who's within about 100, 150 miles to make it your business to come to our Lunch and Learn once we start posting them again and when the dust settles.
Hey, and I couldn't help but focus on the lunch part. You guys really do treat everybody, right? You feed everybody lunch.
Yep. Well,
awesome.
I was raised, you invite someone to your house, you feed them.
Right. You're the hostess.
We do.
You're the hostess. I love that.
We bring lunch in and we can do some presentations. We generally are joined by our local manager from Epson, and he likes to talk a little bit about Epson as a corporation. Very interesting stuff he has to tell us. So it's really a great day.
Well, I'm looking forward to the day when those are back online. So what's next?
Oh, me too. Me too. So let's kind of move on here to dye sublimation. By the way, feel free to submit any questions that you have during this webinar. We will have a question and answer period at the end. Okay, so some of you may be new to dye sublimation. You're looking at expanding your current business. So if you're a direct-to-garment printer or you're into embroidery or other apparel decoration, you're looking for a way to expand and maybe gain extra business from the same customer base you currently have. Dye sublimation is a perfect fit for that. Some of you are looking to start a brand new business of dye sublimation. You have one idea in mind. You've already got a market for it. You've already done a lot of networking and you know the customers that you're going to have for that. That's another type of person looking at dye sublimation. So, and yet a third person wants to do only e-commerce. That's a very big use for dye sublimation because a lot of the items that you would use are not all that big and bulky and heavy, and the shipping is a breeze. And we all know what shipping can be to a business. So those are some of the types of customers who would look at dye sublimation. So let's take a look at the individual systems. You know, Epson has a full line of dye sublimation printers, and there is one right for everybody. They do produce, or they do offer full turnkey systems. So Epson ink, Epson paper, Epson Printhead, Epson materials. And that's what makes it the highest quality system on the market today. In addition, Epson probably offers the best warranty in the business. They will come on site to you no matter where your dye sublimation printer is. If it's in your basement, if it's in your garage, or if it's in the third floor of your factory, Epson will dispatch a service technician if and when that's needed. But I have to tell you something, of all of the dye sublimation printers that I have worked with customers on purchasing, very few of them have needed an on-site visit. As a matter of fact, most of the problems our customers come up with are application problems. They're not quite sure, you know, how to push a certain button or how to get something to look the right way. And Equipment Zone has their own help desk. So you would call us, and 9 times out of 10, we're the ones who are going to help solve your problem. So let's go on to the individual printers. We'll start with the little one and we'll work our way up. So everyone's very excited about the Epson 570. Why? Because it is a desktop printer. You know, it's 24 inches wide. It's easy to set up. You'd be printing in an hour. It comes with everything you need. Paper, 3 rolls, by the way, 2 sets of ink, and you're ready to go. It is a low-cost investment and great for beginners. Now, I do have many people who tell me at trade shows, oh, I have an Epson printer. I have an Epson printer. It's a little desktop dye sublimation printer. And I say, really, tell me more about that. Well, it's really not very good. Well, why isn't it very good? Well, you know, that printhead, it always gets clogged, and I have to keep throwing it away. But it's okay because the printer's only $800, so I buy another printer. You know, and I ask them, well, how many are you buying in a year? Well, sometimes I can buy 3 printers, maybe 4.
Wow.
Okay, so you're spending, you know, almost $3,000 a year just to replace a piece of hardware. Well, here Epson came out with a beginning model turnkey system that's less than $3,000. That's full Epson. And I'll talk more about the printhead later, but I want to tell you, remember that I told you that this is a full turnkey, whereas the other systems that people are throwing away is not. And we'll go on.
Gotcha.
Want to whet your appetite with that one. So the 570 printer, as I said, comes with everything except the optional stand. And it's ready. You take it out of the box, you plug it in, and in an hour you're running. So it's a really nice system. The inks are very nice because they're so easy to work with. These are gravity fed. So all you're going to do is take that bottle, turn it upside down, put it inside the printer, and you're ready to go. Very easy, very simple, a great beginning printer. Great for someone who's already doing direct to garment and wants to get into some polyester. Is somebody who wants to test the waters. So let's say, you know, you have an idea to go into dye sublimation in a very big way, but you're not ready to make that investment until you test the market a little bit.
Yeah.
This is the way to test the market.
That's really smart.
Low investment, easy to use.
That's really smart. So someone could maybe, they're thinking about a bigger printer, but they want to prototype with this, and they're, you know, that way they're not they're not sure. I also love the fact that it has auto sheet feeder and roll. So you get both, right? You could have a roll of media. You could also do
Yep.
sheet.
Yep. That's really cool,
That's
because
cool.
then you just use the size of sheet that you need. A lot of people like to save on the paper costs that way. Yeah,
Makes sense.
great. It's a great little system. So we're going to move on now to what I call the bread and butter printers. It's almost like the mama bear, the papa bear, and the baby bear. So our 570 was the baby bear. This is like the mama bear, even though, I'm a little bit of a, anyway. The 6370 and the 7200. So I call these bread and butter because these are very, very well-priced printers. It is not a huge investment. It's an investment that you will get your money back in tenfold over the course of ownership. One is 44 inches wide, one's 64 inches wide. They basically do the same. They give you really high quality output. They're perfect for all the products, substrates, materials, metals, mugs, coasters, everything. What's nice about these two units is they have the ability to have a take-up reel. The one on the left, the 6370, comes two ways, with or without the take-up reel. And the one on the right, the 7200, has a take-up reel already there. These are great features. Now, why would somebody want a take-up reel? Well, the big unit, the 64-inch unit, you might want a take-up reel if you're doing blankets. Oh, I'm sorry. If you're doing blankets, you can make a really big piece, and then you go over to a calendar heat press, and you web up that heat press with a bolt of fabric, and before you know it, you're making huge blankets. And that's what this is really good for. The 6370 take-up is great because if you're doing cut and sew patterns, as you can see by that photo there, you've got crop marks with the outline of the cut and sew. You can take the roll from here right over to a cutter, and the cutter will automatically cut out that pattern for you. So it's almost a pattern making application.
Very cool.
Yeah. Now here, this is fun. So we had a really fun event in October. Yes, it was October and it was Christmas. So we had our dye sublimation Christmas in October. We decorated our tree with everything on that tree was made with dye sublimation. So we have wooden ornaments there. We have hard substrate ornaments, which have like a little pattern on them. We have metal ornaments. And of course, we have the stocking. You have to have a stocking.
Clearly.
And then under the tree, all those gifts there, all those gifts were made with the dye sublimation system. You can see socks, you can see coasters, there's a blanket, metal photos, hard boards, a little signage. There's even a ceramic tile there, which looks magnificent. Everything you see in this picture was
That
made
is
with the
so
Epson
cool.
Dye-Sublimation.
I got to give
Isn't
you
that neat?
I got to give you a huge shout out, Amy, because this is the kind of event that our clients could also be doing at their offices. They could do, it doesn't have to be Christmas in October. It could be Christmas in July, or it could be another holiday on another date. But the fact that you pulled all of this together and gave all of those visuals, that's so smart. And I have to say that the stocking with the little girl's face that has her name, and I think it says Julie, that is dynamite. Was that personalization?
Isn't that great?
The personalization is huge.
You know, and we did that in October because October is the time you're ramping up for the December rush.
Yeah, right. Smart move.
So think about that going forward, any kind of holiday time. And everything in this picture, you can see our back wall of our solution center. We've got some photos on there as well. So this is the World of Dye Sub here, and this is from our solution center. So I talked before a little bit about the customer who was throwing away those $800 printers. And so now I'm going to come back to this. The one thing that Epson makes Epson the most professional and the highest quality on the marketplace is their printhead. It's called the Precision Core TFP. And I know that's, you know, a lot of techno babble, as they like to say. Let's just say that you get the best print quality, you get the best clarity, the best sharpness, And the chip is perfect for all dye sublimation ink chemistry. Now, we'll go back to that customer with the $800 printer. The reason he had to keep throwing away that printer after that printhead kept clogging, and it was also giving him a lot of banding, was because that printhead was not designed for the type of ink that dye sublimation ink is. You know, all liquid and all ink has different chemical makeups and different viscosities. Well, the printhead in those printers just weren't made for this kind of ink. They can't handle it. So they can only last for so long before they stop working. That's why the Precision Core TFP printhead is the right printhead in the right machine for you, because that 570 I spoke about before, that one will last you years because this printhead is made for the ink that's in it. You're not going to be throwing that one in the garbage after a couple of months. That's for sure.
Better not.
No, better not. The other thing Epson does to assure that they get the best commercial grade quality in the marketplace, it's called Precision Dot Technology. And what that means is, you know, when a printhead lays down ink, it basically is laying down a dot. And it lays down dots of different sizes, and then they all kind of mush together. That's technical, mush. They all mush together. So the way that the Epson Precision Dot Technology is designed, they have a module which reduces graininess, and that's in the printhead. They have lookup tables in the software that work with the machine, and those lookup tables are like a recipe. You know, if you cook a recipe and you don't put the right amount of salt in, or you put too much salt in, it'll be inedible.
Right.
Well, here, this recipe makes it all look beautiful together. And microwave. Well, microwave will keep it from banding, and it makes it really, really smooth. So if you're making a dye sublimation print on metal, let's say, and you're doing it of a photograph, a woman's face or a man's face or a bridal couple, you want to make sure that they look nice and smooth. And that's what this microwave does for you.
Very cool.
Yeah. So now we're going to go to the big boys, or the Papa Bears. And there were two of them. So as you can see just by the size of the images on the slide, this is for the big stuff. These are for cut and sew, athletic uniforms. It's huge for cut and sew. Why? Because it is 64 inches wide. It does have a take-up reel for people who want to take it over to a calendar heat press. And it's twice as fast as the other Epson models because there are literally two printheads in it. There are two printheads and two bays of CMYK ink. So you're getting images out not in a matter of 15, 20, 25 minutes. You're getting them out in seconds. Wow. It is so fast. It's really good for signs, soft signage. You know what soft signage is, Jay? They call that now.
Is it like the kind that they do at like trade shows? I know a lot of the backdrops you can see where they're soft and they're lit from behind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Also, you know those flags, whenever you're driving on the highway, you see those crazy flags and the waving in the wind. Those types of things are done with this. I mean, dye sublimation knows no barriers, because it's permanent. The other thing people are doing with the 9470 are blankets. Blankets are a very big market. Customized baby blankets. I talk to so many people who want to get into it for that purpose, and that's super.
It's a huge market.
The thing I really like, though, is, you know, there are a lot of fashion designers out there. And anyone who's creative enough, frankly, can be a fashion designer. And what they want to design their own fabric. So they need to find somebody who can make them a bolt of fabric.
It's like they're custom. It's like custom fabric.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
I mean, they're not going to be finding a factory in China who wants them to make thousands and thousands and thousands of yards. They want to make their own clothing line, and maybe they only want 10 or 12 bolts of fabric. This is the absolutely perfect machine because you can make a 60-inch bolt of fabric with this. So that's pretty cool. Now, just to bring it up a notch, as Emeril Lagasse used to say. This is the Emeril Lagasse of the.
It's like it's just kind of like a cooking show. We're cooking with ink. We're cooking with something.
I know. I must be hungry. I have a lot of food references here. So the 9470H is the 64-inch wide super fast printer with 2 print heads and 2 bays of ink. But they have added fluorescent pink and fluorescent yellow ink.
Wow.
And what that does, if you look at this mannequin here, this is the mannequin. I call her Cara. She's named after the coronavirus. Not too soon, is it, Jay?
No, not at all. I would have called her Corona.
Corona. I didn't want to be that blatant. But
Yeah.
this is Cora. Cora's my girl. Now, Cora, this will be like a fashion show. Cora is wearing a sarong made from a lovely polyester chiffon fabric, and she's wearing a T-shirt of a polyester weave, a very cottony-like polyester weave. So both of those items were made using this particular printer. And the fluorescence, now, you don't have to be as obvious with fluorescent ink as we are here, because just by adding some fluorescent ink, replacing it to the normal file that you're running, will just bump up the color that much more and just give it that extra little oomph.
Oh, right. So
if
like
you see the paper.
Yeah, it looks like in the picture you have it almost like under a black light. It's almost glowing.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. So if you see, so what we did to show the fluorescence in the actual inks, but if you don't have the fluorescent, if you don't do that, I mean, they just look nice and vibrant.
Right.
And that's why it's perfect for swimsuits and costuming. Also for soft signage again, because everybody wants brilliance and saturation. Now, if you look at the paper coming off the 9470H, it doesn't look the same at all as the mannequin, as Cora does. It's amazing how different it comes out of the printer. You should never ever judge the quality of your print based on it coming out of the printer. You must always transfer first. And that shows you the before, and then Cora is showing you the after of how that looks. Pretty nifty.
Yeah, seriously.
So we talked about some of the items in the Epson world. We've talked about the equipment, certainly. We've talked about the precision core printhead technology. We've talked about the Epson inks. I want to fill in some of the gaps here. And we've talked about service as well. But with all of the Epson printers, with the exception of the 570, Epson ships with what's called Epson Edge software. It's a RIP software, which means it will process the file for you. And if you look to the right, you see the Epson ICC profiles. That comes with the software. Going back to my recipe again, what that means is that when your image comes out on that printer, the software is taking those profiles based on the paper you're using and the printer you're using, and it's telling it how to make the absolute best output possible. And that's the whole point of the Epson system. Yeah, everything works together in concert. Okay. Epson does make various papers. You can see on the bottom there were 4 different, and they do make 4 different papers. They make a photo paper for metal and harder substrates. They make a multi-purpose paper, which is good for everything. They also make what's called an adhesive textile paper, and that has a little bit of tooth in it. So what it does is it keeps it from sliding off when you're working with really shiny and slippery fabrics, like a polyester satin. You know how shiny and smooth that can be. And the 4th paper they have is called a production paper. Most of the people who are using the 9470 series, they use this paper because it's thinner, and as a result, it's substantially less expensive. So that's the lineup on that. So we'll review very quickly. We talked about the 570 as the beginner model. It's great for people who want to test the market, and good for people who want to do some additional offerings to their customer base. The 6370 and 7200, we said those are the bread and butter. They do a great job either on a 44-inch or 64-inch. And then the big boys, the 9470 and the 9470H with fluorescent. Those are for the real high-speed, high-production manufacturing folks. A small word on the 9470, you know, because it is so fast, a lot of people doing e-commerce choose those because they can get a lot of output going. And I have a customer out in New York who has 3 machines now. And what he does, believe it or not, is socks. Well, you would think, well, why do you need such a big machine for socks?
Yeah, right.
Last time I put on a pair of socks, they were kind of small. But the speed of these printers makes it so he can gang up his socks across the width of the 64-inch of the printer, and he can do hundreds of them at a time. And when you're running a business and you're in a manufacturing process, that's the beauty of this system. You can do hundreds of something at once. And that's one of the nice things about that model.
So it's more efficient for him than going with the other model. That makes a ton
Oh,
of sense.
absolutely. Absolutely. Price is higher, but it pays for itself in the business that he gains. So I'm going to end now with one of my favorite slides. So what you see here is a variety of photos on ChromaLuxe metal. You know, when I was 13 and 14, I was very much into photography. I got my first Canon camera when I was 13 years old. And I set up a darkroom in my parents' basement. And I have to tell you, I will never forget the thrill of seeing that image, from developing the negative and hanging it up on the clothesline, waiting for it to dry, then printing it in the enlarger. But the best part was watching the image pop up when I had it in the trays and I was developing it. It was magic to me, and it never left me. Well, ChromaLuxe reminds me of those days of photographic magic. There's nothing like taking one of these ChromaLuxe metal prints, putting your dye-sublimation paper over it in a heat press, and then when it's done, peeling that away and seeing this magnificent, saturated, sharp, crisp, beautiful photograph in front of your very eyes. And that's one of my favorite applications. By the way, you can make ChromaLuxe metal prints with any of the models that we've talked about here at our webinar. So, Jay, I think I'll hand it back to you.
Well, great. So let me check the questions. We've got a few that came through while you were talking. You did a fabulous job, by the way. The first question was about pricing. They said price, question mark, question mark, question mark. So apparently there was a reason that you did not necessarily go through every price point. Maybe you could explain that, or what's the best way to figure out the cost?
Sure. Well, I will give you the prices now, just so you get a sense of it, but understand that Epson does have a tendency to change their monthly promotions. So it's always best to contact me directly and find out what the current promotion is on the equipment. The Epson F570 is selling for $2,495, which is a bargain. Okay, when you think about that poor guy who kept throwing away his printers every couple of months. And
that comes with media and with ink?
It does. It comes with 3 rolls of paper and 2 sets of ink. So that's a great deal. Great deal. The Epson 6370 is selling for $69.95 for a 44-inch printer, which is also fantastic. And it comes with a 24-inch by 300-foot roll of paper. That's a lot of paper. Not only that, but it comes with a whole set of ink. Oh, and those inks are in 1.1 liter bags. That's so much ink.
That's a lot of ink.
I have customers who takes them 8 months to buy ink because there's so much there.
They got their first set on Epson.
Yep, absolutely. Now the 6370, the 44-inch printer that comes with the take-up reel, that's $7,495. So it's a little extra. It's $500 more for that take-up reel. The 7200 is the 64-inch bread and butter printer, I like to call it. That is at a very affordable $12,995. That's amazing if you think about a 64-inch wide printer. That's crazy. Also comes with the ink. All these printers are coming with the ink, so you're in good shape. The new ones, the 9470, is selling, I believe, this month it's $21,995 or $22,995. I have to check that. And then the one with the fluorescent inks is $25.95. So those you can see, those are the productive manufacturing machines. But once again, they all come with ink.
Okay, so the prices, the two things that I learned from this is that Epson will from time to time change the price, which you have no control over, and that it seems like there's a price point for everybody. I mean, starting at under $3,000 and all the way up to, you know, just over $20,000. That's a big range.
Yeah, Epson, you know, Epson wants to make sure that in the world of dye sublimation, they've got everybody covered. You know, they did that with their photographic printers many years ago. There's a photographic printer for everybody. Well, now there's a dye sublimation printer for everybody. And just to touch on what you said, Jay, about pricing, Epson has a strict pricing policy. Not too different than Apple or Bose or some of the manufacturers where wherever you buy it from, you're going to see the same price.
Yeah.
Same price.
It's not like you could go to an Apple store and see a different price for a phone to the next Apple store. They're all going to be the same price.
Right. And what separates them are two things. Any particular promotions going on, which is what I was just telling you about, the month to month. But more importantly, the company you buy it from. So, you know, here's my shameless plug for Equipment Zone. So we do provide training. We have expertise available for you. We have a help desk ready and waiting for you to call us so we can help you get out of any kind of frustrating problems you may be having. We take good care of our customers. We deliver product. We make sure that you know what you need at the time of order, and there's no, oh, by the way, you need this. And don't you hate when that happens? You buy something and you find out down the road you have to spend more.
Well, that's why I was so impressed that the ink is included, and in some cases the media too. That's so cool.
Yep. Yeah. And so that's the whole Epson Equipment Zone pricing story. Were there any other questions?
There was. So question here from, it says, is the quality of the print for the 570 equal to the larger printers?
Okay. So that's a great question. Thank you for asking that question, by the way, because it's very important to me personally that I don't mislead anyone who's looking to buy a piece of equipment. There is a difference between the two printers, or I should say there's a difference between the 570 and the other products in the Epson Dye-Sublimation line. The black ink is a little different in the Epson 570 than it is in the other printers. The other printers have what's called HD, high density black ink. It's called HDK for black. Now, what that means is that assures that you get really, really strong, solid, heavy-duty black. The 570 does not use that HDK ink. It uses a standard black ink. It doesn't make it inferior, but it does mean that in some areas like T-shirts, where the ink permeates the fibers.
Oh, right.
Those fibers may not be as brilliantly black as you may like.
Oh, gotcha.
So it is something, and I'd be happy to talk with you one-on-one about this and better help you determine which is the right printer based on what kinds of work you want to do.
Yeah, it sounds like it might make a ton of sense for them to make an appointment with you. Obviously, current times, they may not be able to visit with you personally yet, but they could get a sample of one or the other and get some training and some insight from you that way.
Sure, and I would be happy, in the case of something like that, I generally give a customer a 4x4 piece of ChromaLuxe metal, and I do it on the 570, and then I do it on the 6370 so you can see the difference in the way the blacks make each look. Now, I want to tell you that if you didn't compare the two and you saw what came off the 570, you would say this is completely saleable. And it is.
Yeah.
But when you do compare the two, you will see a difference.
Okay, so you'll see an increase in performance. Basically, that's not a problem. I think, in fact, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would think, unless you're seriously just really nervous and at the very beginning stages, most of your customers, Amy, are probably going to gravitate towards the 6370 series, anyways. Correct?
Yeah, generally they do. Granted, it's a little bigger, but it is on a stand, and it is you can move it around as needed, but they generally do. And it's just something that it's something they grow into. You know, did you ever when you were a kid get something and you'll grow into it?
And
you didn't think right, but you didn't think it was going to happen at the time. You thought it was way too big for your needs. And before you knew it, oh yeah, look at that.
Yep, exactly.
So that's kind of the way it is.
Well, the last question was about that, because the person said, I'm interested in the 6370 series. Which type of heat press do I need?
Okay, that's oh my goodness. Well, I hate to tell you that's the subject of a webinar, but I will try to answer it. I'll try to answer it as shortly as possible. And there are many heat presses on the market. Equipment Zone sells the Geonite heat presses. It's a great company. They're made right here in the USA, and it's a small family business, which we like. Now, there are so many different sizes. I would be happy to talk with you one-on-one about the kind of work you want to do and what size heat press would be best for you. But when you are looking at heat presses, please remember it's all about the heat and the pressure. Mm-hmm. The heat must be consistent and the pressure must be consistent. Without those two, you will not succeed in dye sublimation.
Sounds like they need to.
Perhaps we can talk about that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it sounds like they need to set up a time when they can really talk to you one-on-one and get all of the specifics, all of the media, as well as printers, print speeds, yields, feeds, etc. I know people always ask, well, how often am I going to go through ink? And it's like, it's not even a question you can really answer, because it depends on, what they're printing, how often they print it, et cetera. But, well, those were all the questions. I think you, first of all, you did a great job. And second of all, it seems like people are really interested in this. We had a lot of folks register and tune in. So getting the basics of sublimation and being able to listen to a subject matter expert like you, Amy, is a resource that Equipment Zone is, I'm sure, proud of. And I love the way you are so clear, and you're interested in helping other businesses grow. You're not interested in just selling them something for the sake of a sale. So good. So good for you, Amy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
By the way, my info is on the bottom of this last slide. So I'd be happy to have private conversations with any of you to talk further about either the printer or the heat press or the whole process in general.
Right. So let me wrap it up by saying, please visit our website at equipmentzone.com for more information. We have an e-commerce store if you ever need supplies. Obviously, we would be interested in that sublimation consumable business as well. Of course, visit with Amy one-on-one. You would do yourself a favor to do that. amy.k@equipmentzone.com is her email address. And please also follow us on the YouTube channel. We have a Equipment Zone channel on YouTube, and this webinar is being recorded and it will be there very soon. But there are lots of other videos that you'll be able to see. Some are more technical in nature, some are more marketing in nature, some are different products. So it would be really wise of you to follow us on Facebook and follow us on YouTube. And that's it. So Amy, thank you so much for joining us today. Any final words before we say goodbye?
No, I just want to say thank you, Jay, for your help, and thank you everyone for participating in this. It's greatly appreciated. And by the way, stay safe out there and wash your hands.
Perfect. Well done, Amy. Thank you. Bye-bye, Furrow.
Bye-bye.